Avatars are evil and no one even notices. And that's what we're going to look at today, because the world is going crazy and people can't make sense of why it is. And that's what we're going to look at today. So to begin with, let's go ahead and get started with this little clip here. The Apostle Paul tells us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2:11 that God will send a group of people a strong delusion that they should believe the lie. Well, the question comes, who are they? Who are the them, or who are they? The answer is found in the context as those who help the lawless one in verse 8, the Antichrist, come to power, as well as the apostatizing church, who is also indirectly or directly involved in bringing this entity to power. These folks are identified in Daniel chapter 11:23, the ones who bring them into power, as a small group of dedicated people who are also seen in Revelations and identified in Revelations 18 as the great merchants of the earth, who are practicing what is known as the mystery of lawlessness, as the text says. The lie they believe revolves around the age-old lie seen in ancient Mesopotamian religion, Canaanite religion, all around the world, and spread all throughout the world, about how the young gods overthrow the old gods' reign, and how this one entity called Marduk, aka, goes by many names, Apollyon, Nergal, so forth, etc., who it comes as a champion to slay the one holding the tablets of the destinies of humanity and men, and liberates humanity, destiny to be free with no borders, everything like that, all freedom, no holds barred. It's about this champion, this Marduk character, the dragon, who is coming as a champion, or Nergal, who also arises to slay the chaos monster guardian of the material world. Why? So humanity once again finds a new destiny, a return to a pure, perfectly controlled, purified state. And you've heard me say this before. This is the same storyline that morphed into the various sects of Gnosticism. Gnosticism has very many different sects, to Stoicism, to so forth, etc. And so there's the various aspects of Gnosticism all have the same thing. And ancient Hermeticism, this is where they morph from. They morph from the ancient storylines of the pagan gods, okay? And it became the foundation stone of being free from the material world, so one can morph back into a pure spiritual state of being and become at one with the all-seeing eye, or morph into the divine mind, guided by the light of Lucifer, who is, they call, God, okay? But it's all about returning to a pure spirit state. Therefore, there remains a small group of dedicated souls who are hell-bent to set the stage for this entity called the Antichrist, the Marduk character, the Nergal character, to arise and defeat the God of the Bible and taking utter control of the destinies of all humanity, and to initiate them to embrace the one to come as a liberator amidst the skeptical world of human beings, who through initiation, occultic initiation, convinces the world's population that they need their Gnostic savior to rule over all. And this goes back to ancient Gnosticism, where you have this upstart God called the God of the Bible, who decided to create the material world and upset everything. And so we have to get rid of the material world and the world of the flesh and become pure spirit beings. So their idea is to slay the demiurge, upstart God of the Bible, of this material world, in one final battle with this champion who will step up, who has magical weapons, arrows. Arrows represent the progeny of human beings, the human progeny, okay? That's what he's talking about. Arrows or a spear, some type of progeny, who is going to come as a small group of people who will come in and help set the stage worldwide by taking over all the cultural mountains of influence and initiate all humanity to embrace this liberation and freedom, okay? So that is the strong delusion and the lie that prepares the way for this to happen. And whoa, many of you say, wait a minute, Brian, people still can't believe that stuff. No, that can't possibly be happening? No, no one believes in the devil. The devil doesn't exist. Evil might, but the devil doesn't exist, and that's just a bunch of ancient pagan religion. Doesn't mean nothing in this modern skeptical Johnny Quest world. No, this can't happen. No, 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 no. I refuse to do it. Put your ears in and go la 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 la. That's what people do. They can't believe it in this modern day world. And despite the evidence for it, they just don't want to believe it. From here, you can make up your own mind. What I'm about to reveal, you can make up your own mind. If they're actually avatars of evil that no one noticed, pushing for this weird outcome in this modern skeptical age of trying to initiate all humanity to get back to a pure spirit state without telling them what's all involved in it. Because, folks, we are in a spiritual war, and the push for this lie is seen during the days of Noah. And with that, we're going to look at the occult version of the same event mentioned in Genesis chapter 6 and in some occult literature. And again, I'm not trying to glorify the occult. I'm giving you some data so you can look at, and you'll be amazed at what I'm saying here. And this is from the cerebral form of Gnosticism, as I call it. It's called Theosophy, who through the writings of Alice Bailey and a whole bunch of other Theosophists, they helped set forth the UN Charter, and whose followers were instrumental in that organization's founding and were founding members of it, and many of them are still there, and many of them are in the elite classes and the circles, and many of them are in meet at Davos as well. So let's go ahead and look at this documentation here, and just be amazed at what I'm about to say here. Alice Bailey, An Externalization of the Hierarchy. This is pages 63, 64, talks about this war. It was coming into incarnation of the spiritually self-conscious human beings, which is the inciting cause of the present conflict. Notice she says the spiritually self-conscious human beings. She's talking about human beings who were once living in a nirvana, in a state of pure spirit bliss, just kind of existing in a netherworld of nothingness. It's called the first root race stage. I won't get into all that, but you're just kind of nebulously floating around. So you need to be awakened. That's what she's talking about. And then we go to the next paragraph. Had the sons of God not come into the daughters of men, which is the biblical and symbolic way of expressing the great relationship between spirit and matter, which was established in human kingdom. Again, she's talking about the material world, the demiurge, who enslaved humanity in fleshly bodies and imprisoned them to be slaves here on earth, to labor and slave away. And even ancient astronaut theorists will tell about the same thing. Human beings were made slaves, and these entities came to Earth to liberate humanity. The same Gnostic reasoning, I mean, people are falling for this stuff right and left. Let's keep reading here. Expressing the great relationship between spirit and matter, which was established in the human kingdom, had the spiritual entities, which are humanity itself, not taken unto themselves material forms, and had the positive spiritual element not attached itself to the negative material aspect, the present world conflict would not be taking place. And so, what she's talking about is that human beings took on the material body, and it's evil. Materialism is evil. The material world is evil. This inanimate object called a coffee mug is evil because to make it is oppressive. You're oppressing somebody and exploiting somebody for wages to make this cup, maybe in some place in another country, and you're forcing them to dig in there. If you're just pure spirit being, you don't need a coffee mug. So you live in a material world, and it's evil. And so we got to liberate humanity back to a pure spirit state. So let's go back to the article. And it says here, and what I put in my own notes here, so you can understand what she's talking about. And I put it in blue. But the divine plan of evolution, what's she talking about? The divine plan is what is meant by the plan or divine plan is to bring the one whom we call the Antichrist back into the world to defeat God in one last battle on earth of evolution. Evolution means initiation. Initiation was based upon the production of this relationship between spiritually conscious man in the form of aspect, and thus the great law of duality. What's that mean? I wrote it down there. Is the order out of chaos and lawlessness. The mystery of lawlessness came into action, bringing about the fall of the angels as they descended from their sinless and free state of existence in order to develop full divine awareness upon the earth through the medium of material incarnation and the use of the principle of mind. And what she's talking about, she's glorifying the fallen angels. That's exactly what she's doing. She is glorifying uh, the fallen angels as liberators, putting in somehow and came in some type of form to mate with humanity in order to save humanity, educate humanity, and get them back and initiate them back to accepting a pure spirit world. They want that is their plan. So there is a great relationship between spirit and matter. It's called the law of duality. Its material world is bad. Flesh material world is bad. Coffee mugs are bad. Uh, you know, the Bible is bad because it's material. Any book is bad. Everything bad, bad, bad. Okay, because it's material. Because it takes from those who have not and oppresses them to and causes conflict. And so the spirit beings came in to liberate humanity from this mess. Okay, let's go to the next page. Page 63, 64 of Externalization and Hierarchy. Alice Bailey continues. This was the divine plan emanating from the mind of God, aka Lucifer. Remember, I write in blue here in my notes so you can know what they're talking about. This was a divine plan emanating from the mind of God, Lucifer, and swept into activity and progressive unfoldment by the act of his will. At its inception, there took place the original war in heavens when the Son of God, who responded to the divine urge to experience, to serve, and to sacrifice, separated themselves from the sons of God, who responded to no such inspiration, but who chose to stay in the original high state of being. And I put my note here. In this, she defines what group service means. It means to serve and sacrifice in order to separate humanity away from the Lord God Almighty of the Bible, like they did in the days of Noah, who they view as the demiurge of the material world, and return humanity into a pure spirit state. So there was a war in the heavens when the noble fallen angels responded to the divine urge to experience and serve and sacrifice in group service, separated themselves from the sons of God who stayed faithful to the Lord God Almighty. And let's go to the next slide and just keep reading here so we can just bring this up. The bottom line of all of esotericism and all occultism involves the plan is to cut all human ties away from God, whom the Bible speaks of, thus dethroning him by bringing forth the Antichrist back from the abyss as liberator of humanity in order to bind everyone to Lucifer. It reminds me of the Lord of the Rings. One ring will bind them all. You know, this age-old battle between good and evil. And the fallen angels come as angels of light, like they're good, they're liberators, okay? And they want to get you back into a pure spirit state. What they don't tell you, your pure spirit state is going to be swimming laps in the lake of fire with them for all eternity, because they are deceivers, okay? Let's look at this. And this is from Alice Bailey, the most blasphemous writing of Alice Bailey that I know right now. This is the most blasphemous book there is. I don't recommend reading it or even looking at it. I just did this for research. Okay, let me look at it. It's from Bethlehem to Calvary. On page 83 of the hardback and on page 27 the PDF mentions this. Before the advent of Christianity, men recognized him as the beloved Krishna of the Hindu faith. Note, he is also identified by Alice Bailey as the one whom all the world longingly waits, the avatar of the silent watcher to come. This is speaking of the Antichrist. And so in this thing, the Lucifer decides to send somebody down to earth to liberate humanity, and he is going to come back later to liberate humanity. Why? Because he got in trouble and sent into the abyss. I'm just making a long story short. Called the sun deity, or Apollyon, and his crew helped bring this entity out And this is Marduk, who's going to raise up his arrows, his secret weapons, human beings, to prepare the way for this to happen again. And Jesus mentioned that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in one of the days that the Son of Man comes. Okay, so you can start seeing, putting together two and two together, and you begin to see that these things ain't that nice, and they really are not liberators at all. And so they are saying that there was one before that who came as one of these fallen watchers to liberate humanity from the demiurge God and get us back to a pure spirit state. And unfortunately, he got assigned somewhere. They're waiting for him to come back, is what she's saying. Okay? And Treaties of Cosmic Fire on page 322 of the PDF. And again, all my notes are in blue. I put it in blue to separate what she's saying so you can understand this stuff. In the words of prana and the earthric body, prana is life force and body means an earthric, some type of form. We have the key to the mystery of the solar and lunar pitris. What does a solar lunar pitris? That's various ranks of Nephilim offspring. I kid you not. People go, what is a pitris? Is the offspring of the fallen ones. And if you have to do some digging in this occult literature, and you'll find out what it is. It's the offspring of these fallen angels, okay, that come to liberate. Okay, that's what they are. We have a key to the mystery of the solar and lunar Pritis, the various ranks of Nephilim offspring, and a hint as to the place of the physical body in the scheme of things. The solar Pitris, the solar means the direct descendants of the fallen angels, and we call them titans or giants, and devas are fallen angels that are not in the abyss, find their force of expression most adequately through man, with all that is induced in that term. They are the source of the self-conscious, and it is their action upon the negative aspect which produces the human ego. On a large scale, viewing them in their totality as a cosmic force. It is their action upon the negative or mother aspect, this refers to the divine feminine, on which the cosmic levels produce that self-conscious unity, the solar logos, unity with the divine mind, Lucifer, functioning through his physical vehicle. From the Christian standpoint, the great builders, per context, all the assigned fallen watchers are the Holy Spirit, are force overshadowing and fiduciating, or this word means inseminating, fertilizing matter, which the negative divine feminine or lesser builders correspond to the Virgin Mary. What does all that mean? This is basically telling us right here they are the source of self-consciousness and the aspect of the human ego. In other words, we have a sin nature. So they want to activate the sin nature and bring it to the up. So you don't have to teach a little kid to lie. They learn how to tell lies, pretty easy, and they learn to say no. So it's the exerting of the will to power. And so they get that in the human ego to strive to achieve power. That's what that's talking about, okay? We go down here, viewing their totality as a cosmic force, their action upon the negative or mother aspect, the divine feminine. And the divine feminine comes in as severity, justice, and glamour and beauty. And so you want to pit that with the freedom aspect of the male nature of mercy, love, and love is love, that type of thing. You're going to pit these two sides together and create a synthesis. Heard me talk about this before. That's basically what they're trying to do, create synthesis in order to take over the destinies of humanity. That's what she's talking about in this book here. From the Christian standpoint, remember, Alice Bailey's not a Christian. The great builders are all the assigned Pristis and fallen angels, and there's two groups. There's the solar and the lunar. The solar is the masculine, the good guys, versus the bad guys, the divine feminine, to create a synthesis of chaos, so you can bring your order into chaos. And you bring order back in and control the destinies of humanity. They'll tell you that you're swimming laps in a lake of fire. And then all the fallen watchers that are not in the abyss and the and the Nephilim offspring are the Kundalini spirits, which is a force that is released to inseminate and fertilize matter, human beings, to seduce, guide, and control them, addict them to spiritual experiences. So, I bet you guys didn't know that. You thought the Kundalini spirit was just one spirit. No, it is all of the unfallen ones masquerading as the Holy Spirit, seducing people in churches as well. In the occult world and Hinduism and stuff, is known as the Kundalini, where multiple people can have these actions happen to them. Okay? Interesting, isn't it? When you start doing a little digging, what you find out is kind of amazing. So I'm going to go to this next slide right here. Treaties of Cosmic Fire, 322, the PDF. Continue. The lunar priestess is the moon deity triad of the triple goddess who sow chaos to shape things for a new order to come. That's my definition. The lesser builders from the systemic point of view find their fullest expression in the animal kingdom. When they, as initiatory impulse, had produced animal man, and they had performed their prime function just as on a smaller scale in connection with only one of the heavenly men. She means pure spirit, divinely controlled humanity. The moon is dying and the decadent world is on a systemic scale, therefore covering a vast period of time. What's she talking about here? Talking about a vast period of time in the context, and it goes back to Genesis chapter 6. If you Book of Jasher talks about mixing one species with another, mixing species one with another, and this is where you get these beings where they're half human and half animal, chamaras. They're doing that today, you know. Just don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. Oh no, the fallen watchers, the angels, that's a myth, and you don't have to pay attention to that. But we can do it. The angels were too dumb; they couldn't do it back then. But you know, do you really know? And so they want to go in the animal kingdom, material world, mix species one with another in order to liberate humanity from this mess. Okay, so the divine feminine is to sow chaos, and one day the chaos is no longer needed. We'll see this in the book of Revelation too. Just keep tracking with me. It's the third paragraph. So I'll read the last sentence. So on a systemic scale, and therefore covering the vast period of time, the work of the lunar priestess, the triple goddess of severity, justice, and glamour, is slowly coming to a conclusion at the power of the third kingdom. The animal over the human being is superseded by spiritual power. The systemic correspondence to the lunar priestess activity to create chaos, in order to make order, will occultically die out. This last paragraph, and I wrote it here for you to read, is simply saying that in the final world order comes after the chaos that the divine feminine makes dies out during the time of the Antichrist reign. In Revelation chapter 18, verse 9, describes this event when the great men of the earth will lament for her after her destruction. Don't think the fallen watchers are ignorant. They know the scriptures better than you do. And when God spoke to the devil in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, about from the woman's seed will come one to crush the serpent's head, he's talking about the birth of Jesus. So what happened? The devil will go, oh boy, I got a problem here. So let's pervert this and start a pagan religion where I will send, his champion to defeat there. And he'll send all his fallen watchers here in this spiritual thing to circumvent and stop that from happening, and he failed, and he keeps failing. It's not going to happen. Jesus came into the world, and through the work of the cross and the power of the cross, he crushed the serpent's head of his power of sin and death. I won't get into all the theological ramifications of that, but that's what I'm trying to show you right now. The goal of the occult world is all about acquiring power. That's what it's all about. That's what I'm trying to say. And they use the fallen watchers for teaching humanity their base sin nature here, how to acquire this power. So the occult world is all about acquiring power to be able to control everything. This is done through a process of grooming to develop that mindset into a certain group of enlightened people who have the will to exercise absolute power attained by the love of wisdom that activates human intelligence to control all with godlike power People like Noah Harari, for example, who wrote Homo Deus, human becomes divine, and all this other stuff they talk about in that, these things. They want to create that synthesis. They want to use the divine feminine to produce chaos, confusion about everything, about what beauty is, what gender is, and throw that in there to create chaos so their order can take control of the destinies of men. They need human arrows, human agents, a small group of people to work through to carry it out. Okay? And they find them and they teach them how to want absolute total power to control all. They come as messengers of light, these people do, shouting liberation, freedom, all for the betterment of humanity. Follow their ways, and their new utopia will come upon the earth. They prepare the way. We have organizations like the UN, UNICEF, so forth, the World Economic Forum. You have the other groups out there doing this, Rockefeller Foundation. You have these small groups of successful, great people of the earth. They all want this, and they're all seeking to control, absolute control and power away from people and onto themselves. So they meet and discuss their plans for this new order of the age to come about. All this is achieved in intelligent, step-by-step stages that slowly solidify their grip on absolute power, guided by their superior wisdom that they get from these entities, by their love to destroy any who oppose them, by activating human intelligence to accept their domination, which prepares for the one to come to rule it all, with their help, of course, and they can rule beside him afterwards, after he comes back. That's the idea. They have messengers within churches, in politics, media, in all positions of cultural influence to game, that means to initiate humanity into accepting slavery as freedom, the best course of life you can have. An esoteric fascism, achieved first by sowing moral rot upon the earth, and then coming in as saviors to clean up the mess that they made at the cost is for everyone else to become living serfs with them as your masters. It's a new feudalism. It's going backwards to the emperors and pharaohs of ancient times. Two groups of people, the haves and the have-nots, and they have, and the haves have absolute total control over the serfs, and they want to be able to control you and control the sin nature. So they want to alter what it means to be human beings so they can control you, so you will not rebel. And you'll see a push for that in the last days. We have AI, we have surveillance state coming. They want to do some type of implants in you. We have in the Bible, it talks about the mark of the beast. Think about it all. Put things together, okay? This is all about achieving total dominance of the few over the many. Alice Bailey helps explain how to do this without the common folks getting wiser. And she explains it in the Gnostic cerebral form of the plan, which she was channeled to her by demonic entities, and laid out the plan in this, and how to get people, the common folks, to not even pay attention to this, and without getting wiser that they're being set up to be controlled. Okay, so let me look at that right now. We're going to go to this slide right here, education in the new age. And this will explain their goal, too, here of it. Education in the New Age, the 1954 edition, page 55 of the PDF on public domain, and I quote, "We have now laid the ground for consideration of the three sciences which will dominate the thought of the educators of the coming age. The building and the development of the Anatakarana," I can't pronounce it. That really means building the bridge between the higher and lower mind self to come into alignment, all sold out oneness to carry out the will of the hierarchy, the fallen entities, which is to bring forth the one. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8 speaks of, that's about the Antichrist. So it's building a bridge between getting rid of the material world, and bringing humanity to accept coming back into a pure spiritual state by sowing chaos so they get discouraged, disheartened, and give up and say, I want what you have, and then they'll get you into a pure spirit state of liberation and freedom. That's what that means, okay? Let's keep going here. The building and development of the Anakanara is the building the bridge to unite the self to the development of the power to control life and to work white magic, good magic, through the science of meditation to the science of service, whereby group control and group relationships are fostered and developed. These are the three fundamental sciences which will guide psychologists and educators of the future. So they want to, through education, they want to control life, use esoteric good magic, they call it, through the three sciences, which is the science of service, in order to control the group and teach you new group relationships for the science of service. These three are the fundamental sciences will guide psychologists and educators of the future. These will also cause a radical change in the attitude of parents toward their children and the methods in which they employ to train and teach them when they are very young in the formative years of their consciousness. And so you'll see a push for all this junk. And yet most people have no clue what they're talking about at all. And so let's find out what they're talking about. So what they want to do is forming within human beings a fashionable, new controlled personality of humanity that lives by certain standards. And so what are those standards? I'm going to bring this slide up and show you what it is. Alice Bailey, Education to New Age, page 75, 76, PDF. The goal and objectives of what both white magic and black magic is really all about. I'll talk more about white magic, black magic later. But the angle of personality control. Wow, it's all about controlling your personality. And it involves, how's that carried out? Number B says the fusion of the personality and the soul. This will lead to the manifestation of the indwelling soul, the Christ consciousness, the solar angel. The solar angel is Lucifer, also known as the solar bull of the ancient Babylonian religion. Okay? That's the chief one. So the Christ consciousness is like the liberating thing that comes that you need to be liberated and set free, okay? And C, the ultimate fusion of humanity with the hierarchy is next. So he wants you fused with the hierarchy of fallen watchers. This will be a consummation of all other fusions. So what they want to do is to hook you up with the devil and the fallen watchers to guide you. They want to send what is known as a Kundalini spirit in all humanity to hook you to spiritual experiences, so forth, etc. As many as they can to initiate humanity into accepting the lie that you are pure spirit trapped in this material world of capitalism stuff, and you have to burn it down and all that stuff to restore order. Education in the New Age, on page 81, reveals the objectives of all occultism, all white magic, all black magic. What is it? The objects of future education is a controlled and directed personality. While they're touting, we want to liberate you. We want to free you. We want no borders, knock a hole in the wall, escape and over the fields, dance naked in the woods, whatever, but the objective is not freedom. It's a directed and controlled personality. They want you controlled. That is a total contradiction of what they're selling in commercials and music artists and their songs say, and in many certain cases. And, go back in the 70s, a Stairway to Heaven, you're going to reach a blissful state, destroy the system and find freedom. No, it's about control personality, not about liberation. It is about controlling you and me, everybody, and taking control of the destinies of humanity away from God into their hands. It goes back to the old ancient storyline. People go, oh man, you're nuts. I mean, no one believes that. Well, there's avatars of evil, and that's why nobody even noticed them at work right now. So what does Alice Bailey mean by the science of service and group control? Okay, what does she mean by all this? Now I want to look at this slide right here. She'll tell you. Education New Age, page 55, PDF says, we have now laid the groundwork for a consideration of the three sciences which will dominate the thought of educators of the New Age. And by educators of the New Age, he's talking about all cultural mountains of influence that they control are educators, okay? The music industry, science, math, everything is going to be pointing to this. They want total control, okay? They're educators. The building and development of the anakara, building the bridge to unite self to the development of the power to control life, to work white magic, is the science of service, group control, group relations are foster and develop, and these three fundamental sciences will guide the psychologist and future educator of the future age in order to brainwash all humanity to accept this stuff. How this is achieved is going to be seen in this next slide, in slide 10. I'm going to go to slide, I have slides numbered here, so I'm going to go to this slide. Just look on your screen. Page 51 of the Education New Age, Alice Bailey writes, and the bottom line is world citizenship, but let me read it. It is obvious that the very many decades must elapse before such state of affairs will actively present, but it will be decades, if not centuries, if the reactionary and conservative peoples in every nation be prevented from swinging civilization back to old lines. So he talks about reactionary people who are stuck in the material world. They are your enemy and must be purged from the earth. There's no love or tolerance toward conservatives, especially not Hebrew people, and definitely not Christians who are not converted to Christ consciousness. If you're a libertarian, you're evil. If you like the good and patriotism and loving your country, you're evil and you must be wiped out. You're a reactionary person. We can't have you draw us back to this material world. We have to liberate you from that so we can control you. And that's good. So they're selling what's bad as good is basically what they're doing. That's a reactionary person. The cooperative, this is what they want to teach, cooperative goodwill, it means collectivism. This is a pseudo-altruism. It's surely the first idea to be presented to the masses and taught in our schools, thereby guarantee a new and better, a collectivist, as Alice Bailey would say, an inclusive civilization of loving understanding, love for the group over one's own needs. That's a faulty idea of altruism. Intelligently implied should be the hallmark of the cultured, wiser groups, plus effort on their part to relate the world of meaning to the world of outer effects for the benefit of the masses. World citizenship, or global citizen, is an expression of both goodwill and understanding, should be the goal of enlightened everywhere and the hallmark of spiritual man, and these three you have right human relationships, or right relationships established between education, religion, and politics, teaching you how to live right, okay? Have right human relationships, okay? So what does she mean by cooperative goodwill, loving understanding, group love, right human relationships, science of service, group control, and group relationships, as we already talked and mentioned? What does she mean by that? Well, first off, these terms do not mean what they first appear. They're a twisted form of altruism, which is really not about helping others, like dying to save one, and you give up your life to, throw yourself on a grenade for your friend, or you jump in a raging river and you save a family from drowning and you die in the process. That's the idea of altruism. But this is a twisted form of altruism that is actually designed to make you feel guilty for improving your life. How so? Well, your privilege is showing, your privilege is showing, so you must altruistically self-sacrifice for the good of the group. You must self-destruct for the good of the whole, and so does your country. That's the idea here. And loving understanding. If you are successful, it's because you stole resources from someone else to get there. Therefore, you must pay it back and make things right. The science of service says you must do selfless service for bettering society, achieved by lovingly self-abasing yourself and livelihood for the good of the whole. So you must take care of the lazy, the profane, the vile. Why? Because it is you who made them that way, oppressed them by your success and lifestyle. You victimized them without knowing it, and therefore you made the criminal do criminal acts, and they had no choice. Therefore, we're going to have no bond set for them. They can do whatever they want. Now people say, wait a minute. You need to be fair to the esoteric world, okay? That's what people will say who follow Alice Bailey. And those phrases don't mean that. That's what they'll tell you. It's all about love is love. It's all about bettering humanity. It's about ending racism and all that jazz. And they'll point to this right here. They'll point to this. Alice Bailey and Externalization, the Hierarchy. And they say, wait a minute, you got it wrong. This is what they mean. Look, here's proof. And I put these paragraphs A, B, C, and D, okay, for easy reference to you. So paragraph A and B. So this is what they point to. The objective of their work can be summed up thus: the new order of the age will facilitate the establishing of right human relations based on justice and recognition of inherent rights and opportunity for all, irrespective of race, color, and creed, on the suppression of crime and selfishness through right education, and on the recognition of divine potentialities in man, as well as recognition of divine directing intelligence in whom man lives, moves, and have his being. She means that by Lucifer. It is equally essential that the new order of the age should develop in humanity a sense of divinity and relationship to God, yet with no emphasis upon racial theologies and separate creeds. The essential of religious and political beliefs must be taught in this new simplicity of life, inoculated. Today, these are lost in the emphasis laid upon material possessions, upon things, and upon money. Now, she is contradicting herself, because one of the things that their writings are, and especially Alice Bailey, is truly anti-Semitic. And so there's a logical contradiction in what they're saying here. So those terms do not mean what you think they mean. Let's go back and look at them. Based on justice. What type of justice? What type of recognition of inheritance? What do they mean by opportunity for all? Irrespective of race, color, or creed, and yet they want to get rid of reactionary people. This is all about love is love, and we're tolerant, we're loving people. Our love is superior than yours, but if you disagree with it, we must purge you and eliminate you from the face of the earth, to the river, to the sea. That's what they say. We have to do these things and wipe out these materialist people, the conservatives, Christians, Hebrews, that hold on to the material world, libertarians, okay, free, true, honest, free thinkers. Even if you're an atheist and you're a free thinker, they want to get rid of you because you present a diametrical threat to them, okay? And yet they're all about love and tolerance and acceptance. This flies in the face and disproves that. You need to do some studying what they mean by reactionary groups on your own, and talking about a great purge to come. Sadly, that idea infiltrated churches as well. Okay? Just think about that for a second. Okay? So, what's she saying? She wants to stop the criminal behavior and implement the justice of love. So what's wrong with that? Well, first off, these terms are not what you think they mean. For example, in her writings, the criminal is defined as the reactionary group who oppose this plan of liberation, which are the conservatives, Bible believers, libertarians, free thinkers, the religious of any religion, basically, who want to hold on to their traditions and values. These are all classed as criminals who bind all to the evil material world, who repeat the sins of the past, who oppress, who exploit others. They exploit the planet to keep their selfish living existence alive. So they need to be re-educated somehow, through the cultural mountains of influence. These folks, if they do not convert, must be purged. And I ask you, am I right on this? The answer is yes. The idea is laced throughout the occultic, esoteric, theosophical literature, masquerading as the greatest good. Think about it. So Bailey actually is going to be pointing out in this slide here. Let me bring it up here again. And I just want you to look at it. So what she's doing, she's going to point out that based on justice, the recognition of inherited rights, ending racism comes with the suppression of crime. Isn't all that a good thing? People say, oh, that's a good thing. Again, these terms are not what they first appear to be. Everyone can agree with these, but the meaning is important. In Satanism, a lie is a cunning virtue of expedience to achieve the goal, to burn down the system, and let me explain how this is done. For justice sake, the criminal must have free reign. I'm not kidding you. In their mind, the criminal must have free reign. But aren't they against criminality? Aren't they against this stuff? And so why is all this stuff? For justice sake, the criminal must have free reign for a time to burn the system to the ground. They are used as shock troops to sow chaos into the land as a form of secret knowledge is unleashed, used to punish law-abiding citizens for their success and for their living standards. Then later, after a while, the free people will start crying out for justice to stop the crime wave. Your leaders will come and sweep into action, who are theosophists basically, to stop the criminality, and in the process round up the reactionaries too, by some form of governing body to be able to achieve absolute power. It's all about group control. Think about it. So they want to impose that everybody live by the standards of cooperative good. They must inflict guilt and shame upon the population for being independent and successful in their creating of wealth, as these things are a diametric threat to the main objective of achieving absolute control over all. So they'll let loose criminals to create chaos, who they can later use to sweep down and upon you and take over everything. And while you're not looking, they get rid of reactionary people without you even knowing it. Every Marxist, every totalitarian, authoritarian dictatorship has done this through centuries and centuries of practice. It's nothing new. Thus, you can housebreak an entire population through criminality to live for the cooperative good of all. How so? Because this is the argument. You were punished. The criminals came in, okay, because you had the material resources that others did not. You exploited these and thus made the poor poor. It is you who made the criminal criminal. These folks are merely victims of your success. Why? Because you are a bad person. You are a bad country daring to improve your citizens' lives. The wealth of you as well as your country must be surrendered, redistributed to the have-nots for the benefit of cooperative goodwill and love, love. Right? Let's go back to the article here. Look at C and D. The problem of money will have to be faced. The problem of the distribution of wealth, whether natural or human, will need careful handling and compromise reached between these nations which possesses unlimited resources and those who have few or none. The problem of various forms of national government must be faced with courage and insight. The restoration, psychological, spiritual, and physical of mankind must constitute the primary responsibility. Wow. Right there in the same paragraph that occultists use to say, well, they don't really mean this. This is for the betterment of humanity. No, it's about the destruction of who you are as a human being. To be absolutely power and control. I just showed you the objective of occultism is absolute power and dictatorial control over every aspect of your life. Okay? And it comes with the redistributing of wealth. D, the sense of security must be put on a firm basis. Yes, a firm basis to get rid of the reactionary people. And let's have criminals released so we can get rid of the reactionary people without reactionary people getting any of the wiser. What did they say? I don't care your political philosophy. I'm not, I like Donald Trump, but I'm not a, big Trump supporter. I will vote for him because but anyway, the alternatives are not there. Okay. But when you have this brain dead guy coming up there in these flags and eerie red things, and these Magna people are evil, they must be wiped out. They're saying stuff like that. You got to realize they're cascading and getting ready to demonize a group of people to get rid of them. When they say that Trump is a dictator, he's going to do it, they're just mirroring their own crimes onto Donald Trump. You got to understand, it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump. It could be Joe Schmo from Indiana who has the most popular winning the election. They would do it to him. It doesn't matter who. Okay? Just cool your jets there. It's all about a sense of security must be put on a firm basis, the basis of right relationship and not the base of force. Men must feel secure because they are seeking to and not therefore dependent upon the strength of armies and fleets. Development of international goodwill can trust each other. So when they talk about it's not based on force, they're talking about the force of armies and conquering nations. So they want to conquer from within. And they want to use a different type of spiritual force, good white magic force, since that's what they use against the material force. This is what this means of armies, fleets, to develop international goodwill so people can trust each other. So they want to get rid of armies and all that so the people can trust each other. Okay? This is convoluted gobbledygook is what they're talking about. So this poses a logical contradiction to esoteric thought on how to create a better world through theft, of redistributing wealth, all justified by the noble-sounding phrases that robs and purges to set up people to be killed and to destroy in order to build back a better collective world of slavery, of serfs. And in teaching the serfs how to learn right human relations, one must voluntarily, willingly be forced to feel unsafe as well as feel shame and guilt. So you willingly give up your standard of living to the criminal and perverse because by your plenty, you oppress them. And they lack, is because they lack is why they steal. You oppress the perverse by not accepting them, and you offend at them. So you must feel guilty. This is a pseudo fake altruism. They make you feel guilty, willingly, voluntarily give up, not by force, but through psychological force and manipulation, actually. And because they're only making things right. They're ending racism, ensuring inherited rights, giving opportunity of all through right education, right? After all, it's your fault, you materialist, reactionary to make your country great. No, can't have that. You must spread the wealth around. You must give opportunity of all to learn cooperative goodwill by opening your borders and letting all the have-nots in. By this you gain loving understanding. After all, you must sacrifice for the good of the whole and must provide self-sacrificially those who illegally enter your country by giving them all your money, houses, hotels, social programs, and train them for employment. And all those men can have your women too. Why? Because your country was racist. Well, at one time, even though it's never that way now, it will always be. Therefore, you must deconstruct so other countries can live off the prosperity of your demise. This is called redistribution of wealth. You are a bad person of privilege. Therefore, your business must fail. Your income must be taken from you and your family for the good of the whole. Because by your hard work, you deprived and oppressed and offended, all by your live and let live materialistic success story. That has to go. You're the problem. You're the problem. Therefore, you must altruistically made to suffer, altruistically to give the all you have, and to altruistically suffer. You must let the perverse have your children because you oppress them by not letting them teach right human relationships to them in storybook hour. Are you seeing any of this bull malarkey here, this rot happening today? Do you feel disheartened by it? Or you feel like you want to check out? You feel like you're saying, what is the use? I am getting absolutely discouraged by this. Why? Avatars are evil at work. And I want to ask the Lord to open your eyes up to see it. This is a form of twisted altruism at work where you are reduced to a mere sacrificial animal, a mere beast of burden, simply to become a commodity of the state. It's all about group conformity, making you a controlled personality who, in the name of love, must love to hate yourself. You gotta love to hate yourself. You have to love to hate yourself, your national heritage, your personal values, and even love to hate objective reality, objective truth itself. That is the key to understanding esoteric thought, and it explains why you're seeing this stuff today. Let's look at this slide right here. Alice Bailey, Externalization of Hierarchy on page 103. Right human relationships will come by mutual recognition of mistakes, sorrow for wrong actions in the past, by restitution if possible. It will come when nations can be educated to appreciate the good qualities of other nations, to comprehend the part they play in the whole picture. I rest my case. So you're going to have to be made absolutely feel like dirt to housebreak you to accept this stuff for the good of humanity, okay? This is achieved by forcing guilt and shame right into your very psyche. Group love involves that you must think of yourself lesser than anybody else. You are guilty and must serve and work for the cooperative goodwill of all to make up for all the past mistakes that you were never guilty of in the first place. Therefore, others deserve all the rewards of life, but not you. You're a bad person for living better than the Bushmen in the boondocks. Why? Because you unknowingly took from them to ensure you lived a good life. Now it's payback. It's payback for group love's sake. How dare you take any pride in your country's heritage? How dare you take pride in any accomplishments of defeating totalitarianism in wars fought to set other people free? Those poor authoritarians, they were just victims trying to create a better world. River to the sea type things. How dare you do that? And if your team wins first place, if you're on a sports team and your team wins first place, you must ensure that the losers win first place too. Why? Because they lost, because they didn't have it as good as you. You had a better education. You were better trained than them. And they had it bad. Therefore, you must give them special treatment. Okay? That's what it is all about. The losers are better than you because you did not build that. This is all about stakeholder capitalism. This covert, but in reality overt occultism incentivizes victimhood. I'm oppressed. I was born the wrong way. I have it bad. Therefore, you must give me special attention and treatment. You must use the right term for me, or you'll go to prison for life because you offended me. Don't fly your nation's flag, as that is offensive. Bend the knee when you hear your national anthem. It's all about right human relations. You must reward victimhood. You must be ashamed in order to willingly learn what right human relations are by altruistically surrendering all your resources to appease the victims of your success, those have-nots. You must serve them, not your family, not yourself, not your country. Your government will give you your rights, folks, not God. Due to the color of your skin, you are a bad, wicked, vile person if you oppose this narrative. You are a bigot. You are the oppressor. You must do group service to the offended, to the oppressed. Never forget that you are the oppressor who in some way, invisible way, stole from the oppressed. You can never be forgiven. You must surrender to the narrative, folks. You must surrender to the narrative. Right human relationships, as Alice Bailey says in Externalization of the Hierarchy 103 of the PEDF, right human relationships will come by mutual recognition of mistakes, by sorrow for wrong action in the past, by restitution if possible. It will come when nations can be educated to appreciate the good qualities of other nations and to comprehend the part they play in the whole picture. There you have it, right human relationship and what it means and what it's all about. Folks, what is meant by group love, right human relationships is best understood as winning the race to the bottom. Thus, you are housebroken. And what happens to you, and what's happening to many people right now, you become disheartened. You are made to feel sad. In other words, you have to be conform to these people in order to appease them. Altruistically surrender who you are as a person to these people. If you give the victim sympathy, you get a reward on your diversity, equity, and inclusion score, or your environmental social score, and government score. You might just get a real tasty treat of meat as a snack once in a while for your group service of debasing yourself, but it's not going to be your staple again. Here, bark, sit, fetch, beg, sir, here's a tasty meat. Now, that's what this is about. That is occultism, which helps the devil take people captive to do his will, to create a perfect, inclusive, comply or die world. And this simply begs the question, how does the devil really take people captive to do his will in this modern skeptical world who doesn't believe this is even possible? I gotta tell you, there are avatars are evil and that no one even notices in this modern skeptical world at work afoot, as it is in Dr. Robert Herrmann's 1997 revised 2001 article, and I have the link in the description below, a scientific analysis of the writings of Alice A. Bailey and their applications explains how the devil takes captive, and we're going to look at that for a bit here. And we're going to wrap this up so you understand what these folks are doing, okay? We're going to look at this slide. I'm going to quote, this is in this article here. Robert Herrmann's document, Scientific Analysis of Writings of Alice Bailey and Their Applications, and it says Masters of and Overshadowing, Masters and Overshadowing. The concept of masters, masters' wisdoms, and unknown chiefs, and secret chiefs, brothers, and other such synonyms can be traced back to approximately 1750 and the Spanish-French occultist Martin de Pasquale. The basic approach is an evolutionary approach where an individual spiritually evolves into a higher, more meaningful forms until one actually becomes totally spirit being on various evolutionary levels. Evolutionary levels are initiation levels. All this stuff that these people are doing here are designed here. What is they designed to do? To initiate you to accept a self-sacrificing, fake, phony altruism. Let's go to the next page. The masters form a major portion of the occult mysteries of Blavatsky, Bailey, Olcott, Crowley, Leadbeater, Bassett, and hundreds of other occultists of lesser fame. The theology of the masters teach is widespread. It is a major part of any large religious organizations. A master can be defined basically as perfected spirit state man. I have my definitions here for you. What he's talking about in blue here are apt, a spiritual entity who guides and teaches, whose task it was or is to watch over and guide humanity along the path of spiritual and physical evolution or initiation with concentration on the spiritual. Spiritual always refers to the supernatural spirituality. Masters are godlike adapts, and for hidden entities somewhere, and their goal is to make human masters, occult apostles, so forth, etc. on earth. This is talking about overshadowing. And what is overshadowing? So this is how overshadowing involves making human avatars. So see, spirit beings will live in human avatars. Okay, you ever seen the movie Avatar, where the guy was the veteran was paralyzed? They hook him up to this machine, and so he had his full function of his body and living in an avatar of another being on this planet. Okay, and then fighting the materialist, and joins their side to fight the materialists. It's all symbolic of the same thing, becoming a new spiritual man in this virtual paradise and defeating the material world to take control of the destinies of men. So these masters, these spirits will inhabit people, overshadowing them to become their avatars, and these people are communicated through telepathic messages given to explain how to properly groom people and dehumanize them, break their will to resist. The main goal is to separate people away from God himself, all free reasoning, thought, form, your natural heritage, who you are as a human being, reshape you in this new spiritual state of man. There are three types of overshadowed people that Alice Bailey mentions. And overshadowing, let me explain. I explained it in one of my videos, Mass Possession by the year 2025, which is not too long from now. And so in that time frame, I went over overshadowing. And overshadowing is the ability to, one, there are certain groups of people who will invite these spirits into them to fully possess them 100% of the time without them losing their humanity. Usually possession turns you into a lunatic, okay, so to speak, and you are like Legion. That's what people think of possession. But these are overshadowed people who are totally possessed but maintain their humanity. There's another group of people that are overshadowed, and they are teachers, and they overshadowed with the spirit, and they connect with them, and then it lifts off of them, and they retain, and they're just like everybody else. But as soon as you say a buzzword, they click back into their state. They're like the early 2000 edition of the second remake or reboot of Battlestar Galactica. And all of a sudden the switch goes on and you realize you're a Cylon and your intentions are not that good, and so forth, etc. And you have the good Cylons versus the bad Cylons and all that. I won't get into all that, but that's what this is talking about. It's talking about a second form is they guide people like Alice Bailey to disseminate the information. Then they lift off them, they become okay. Then later they become totally possessed. And the other is another third group is to infiltrate everybody and make everybody avatars of this, where they are controlled by the hierarchy and they come under that hierarchy and lifts off of them and stuff. And let's look at how this works. So I'm going to go here. Okay. An avatar is definitely a spirit being. All avatars in the strict sense of the word are liberated souls. Masters in physical plane incarnation is a type of avatar. He is a free soul and therefore only is incarnate for specific purposes. In other words, this is talking about the spirit entity coming in and living inside of a person, either fully or partially, lifting off from time to time to control you, to lead you to right human relationships, and debasing yourself for the good of the whole, and making you feel guilty as heck for being a human being and wanting to help your family. You are guilty because you oppressed somebody to get there. You took from them. Okay? Alice Bailey also gives actual procedures being used at this very moment, and this article continues to overshadow, especially selected vehicles. Bailey descriptions of the first stage of overshadowing is in Alice Bailey, Treaty of Cosmic Fire, 12th printing, and okay. And I wrote down here, and I broke these down in A, B, C paragraphs. In many cases, overshadowing will be seen and will demonstrate in threefold manner. What she means is empowering the first three stages of esoteric initiation into prepared disciples, and highly evolved men and women will be found who will be doing the work along the lines intended. One will be occupying places of prominence which will make them available for reaching of the many. Their bodies will also be sufficiently pure to permit the overshadowing. Sufficiently pure means purged from the biblical God and all influence of morality, so they can separate others away from the biblical God to Lucifer's light. That's what it means. It will only be possible in the case of those who have been consecrated since childhood, who have been servers all their lives, who in previous lives. What Alice Bailey means by a prepared people refers to the upper classes, the upper corporate business financial world, the elite, and those in politics, their presidents, prime ministers, parliaments, kings, emperors, whatever, to inspire people to purge society of all vestiges of the Lord God Almighty and his influence in the lives of others. Have you noticed any political party ideology where we're witnessing such a thing like this now? And prime minister, presidents, a push for wokeness, a law of offending, having your own country's vast positive heritage erased. Uh, you dare show your country's flag or sing your national anthem, and you can't do it because now it offends. You can't sell uh, uh, Fourth of July products and stuff in bucketfuls like you used to. You can't celebrate your country's heritage on the 4th of July because you're evil. You know, you can't be patriotic. If so, you become an enemy who needs what? Re-education. You need Avatar working inside of you to enforce the right human relations and group control, so forth, etc. All this is achieved by overshadowing by the hierarchy, with the most victims not even realizing, except for those at the top of the food chain who are doing this. We're living in a time when intelligent people are being silenced so that stupid people won't be offended. And that is how the occult world works. All three initiations are to silence intelligent people so stupid people won't be offended. Then everybody is housebroken and live in this collective group love, conformity, and absolute total dominance and control. That is the crux and the plan of the occult world. They have created avatars of evil at work in the world today, and barely anybody notices them, yet they're in the halls of power. They're in churches, and they are everywhere in all cultural mountains of influence. With that, I'm going to end here. And if you'd like to contact me, all my contact information is there. And if you like to support what I do, it's all there. And my 2 books are there, To a Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, Heaven Beckons. If you like to support what I do, that's fine. It's up to you. I don't call people. I never will call people, never will ask and beg for money from people. All I can say, if that someone does that to you, that is not me. I don't do that. So you pray about it. I also, more than anything, I ask for your prayers of protection, as you can see through this video, how much the attacks come. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and you guys be blessed in Jesus' name.